guys, what's up? Welcome back. I'm the Barker Hobo, and I'm gonna ask you a question. Was Red Faction too bloody for you? Well, then you're gonna want to sit this episode out. This game can look as even bloodier, so we'll give you some time. Go on, leave. Leave it for the rest of us who like the sight of blood. Okay, I think that should be enough time. Developed by Clee Entertainment and published by EA, we're going to be looking at Shank today. Like I said, Shank is even bloodier and more violent than Red Faction was. So like I said, I hope I gave you enough time to clear out if you're not into violence and blood. And now, with the formalities out of the way, it's time to hobo up! The story for today's game is that a hitman named, Shank, is out for blood. You see, 7 years ago, his boss, Cesar, ordered a hit on his girlfriend. We didn't do it, the boss's posse murdered the woman and mortally wounded Shank. And now, 7 years later, he needs to carve a path of destruction and get his revenge. Like Red Faction's story, Shank's story is not anything new or groundbreaking, but it does work. Though I do wonder what he was doing for those 7 years before the game started. The gameplay for Shank is a side-scrolling hack-and-slash beat-em-up. Basically think God of War except in a 2D plane, and also a completely different story. When Shank starts his mission, he only has 3 kinds of weapons. The dual Shanks, which are his primary fast attack, and they do good damage but are only at close range. Dual pistols, which have a good range and fast damage, however, they're not very strong, so large enemies will barely notice them. And a chainsaw, which is very powerful, but again, limited range, and fast enemies can dodge it because it's really slow. Aside from those, Shank gets more weapons as he progresses. He also gets a shotgun, as you see here, and the shotgun has a lot of damage and is really effective against large enemies. However, it's actually very slow and does not have a very good range, so only use it against large enemies and just enemies that are up in your face. The next weapon Shank gets is a pair of machetes. These might not be quite as strong as a chainsaw, but they are faster, and that makes up for it. In my mind, it's just better to hit faster than harder, and I use these for a good chunk of the game. The next new toy Shank is to play with is the Uzi. It's about as strong as a pistol, meaning not very good for large enemies, but it fires really fast, and it's good for thinning out a crowd of weaker enemies. The next tool in Shank's arsenal are the chains, and I gotta be honest, I didn't really use these all that much. I mean, they're really good for smacking enemies around, but they're really limited, and I don't know why, I just didn't really like these very much. I personally just stuck with the machete for the most part. The final tool in Shank's arsenal is the katana, and this thing is a killer. It's really powerful and effective. However, it's not very good against crowds, but still it's my second favorite heavy weapon right behind the machetes. Another nifty tool in Shank's arsenal are the grenades. These are a thrown explosive, and they're more of a power-up than a full-on weapon in my opinion, and they can really get you out of a sticky situation. Shank starts each level with 3, but he can carry up to 5, so they really should not be wasted. As Shank fights, he can regenerate his health with bottles of alcohol found either laying around or dropped from dead enemies, and it can really help you out in a pinch. One problem I did notice with the game is that it maps the pick up items button as the same as the fast attack button, so when you're trying to pick up an item like replenish your health in a sticky situation, Shank will sometimes just not pick it up and keep attacking. In reverse, sometimes you're not trying to pick up an item, like during a boss fight, there's usually 1 or 2 alcohol bottles inside the fight. Sometimes you accidentally pick those up when you don't need them when just trying to attack the boss. It can be annoying at times, but it's not game breaking. The game has 2 difficult settings, normal and hard. On normal mode, the enemies are a little weaker, and checkpoints are pretty frequent, so that if you do die, you'll just respawn pretty much 10 feet away with full health. And in hard mode, enemies are tougher and there are no checkpoints, so that is a pretty tough one to get through in my opinion. Never tried it and don't plan to. Another cool thing about the game is that Shank can get extra power-ups, such as Gatling guns and flamethrowers, and these are very helpful, especially in large groups of enemies. It's basically a wall of bullets, similar to how Trump plans to use a wall to keep immigrants out of our country, although this way actually works. The game also features boss fights, which are much more involved than regular enemy fighting in that you can't just spam the shoot button to win. Now, although some later bosses feel like more powerful clones of earlier bosses, it's not game breaking. One final note about the gameplay is that when you revisit old levels, you retain any new weapons you got in later levels, and that does justify another playthrough, at least in my opinion. And there are also costumes you can unlock. The costumes are unlocked in such ways to get 100 or 150 hit combo, or kill 500 creatures. Now the creatures are those tiny animals you see in the game, they're not like the dogs you fight. Now the costumes can look funny or cool, but they don't add any real benefits. They are fun to unlock though. There are some snacks here and there, although I recommend to play the game in spurts because it can get kind of boring at times. But still, good game overall. Now let's wrap things up with a presentation. The animation for the cutscenes is very smooth and crisp, and it looks great. I personally love it. The animation for the gameplay is also very smooth, and the sprites look great. The backgrounds look great, everything was hand-drawn, and I personally just love how it looks through and through. Personally, it's a great looking game. The blood effects are nice too, and I think they do stick to the walls here and there, but not quite as much as Red Faction did. But overall, great looking game, great playing game, just a good game overall. Is it worth being in the library? Absolutely it is, yes. Others have complained about technical issues and gameplay issues, but I didn't encounter any. So I'd recommend you chase it down, it's pretty cheap on Steam. What's that? Not a fan of PC gaming? Then you'll be glad to know you can also get the game on Xbox Live and PlayStation Network. And with that, we wrap up another episode of the Bargain Bin Hobo. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Hobo, out!